Okay, so you may have seen me in the last few weeks being at the forefront of bringing attention to the whole industry, whether they were ready for that conversation or not, on sales methodologies versus commercial oversight. But you're probably wondering, who the heck am I and where did I come from? Okay, so how I got there is a little bit of a story to be able to have the lens that I have both commercially and spiritually. So I grew up in a small country town at the surf coast of South Australia, where it was my father's dream just for me to play Aussie rules. I became pretty good at it, and I had a couple of good attempts to train with an AFL club, but I indirectly, by the age of 23, had already modelled for some of the biggest agencies, both nationally and internationally, and walked at Sydney, Melbourne, Australian Fashion Weeks. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about how I got there. Now, on the 11th of December 2006, I fell from a 4-story building. I broke my lower back, my pelvis, my coccyx, my tib, fib in 17 places on the right, 12 on the left, both ankles, both feet, both calcaneus, and my right hand has microsurgery. They said I'd never use my hand again. Dislocated both my shoulders, and I was told that I would never ever walk. Now, that's a lot. And I was in hospital for nearly a year, and each day I was told that I would never ever stand. So to have all of that elevation of football, modelling, whatever, work at the time was also pretty good. A lot of the sales stuff you see today is still from before back then. Taken away in that instant, that's not something you can take lightly, and to take away your whole essence and perhaps also your soul essence at that moment, everything around you changes. You're no longer that go-getter that can get any people into any nightclub, or you're that person on that billboard or in that magazine, or you're that person that did that tactic for that company that got those deals. You are a fraction of your former self, and at that moment I knew that I had to solely concentrate on beating what I was being told, and each day learn how to move my feet more than what I could the day before. And that literally started with 2 centimeters each day until I could move 5, and then I could move 10, and then I could stand, and then ultimately pushing as hard as what I was. I'd have days where my body would black out from pain, but thankfully I did recover. And thank you to all of those employers at those points in time that also let me work in corporate environments, in track pants, shorts, ice packs on my legs, ice packs on my back, because that gave me the knowledge that I have now, or the foundation to recover. Now, that's not to say that that was easy. I went through many types of different learning capabilities of what the body could push through. And now, if that wasn't enough, and this doesn't sound like a bad Netflix documentary, once I was recovered, I'd had multiple heads of sales roles, had a CRO role, and I was doing my second. I'd moved across to New Zealand, where I was T-boned by another car, so I had a second spinal injury, where I then had post-concussion and delayed post-concussion to light and sound for on and off for almost a year, where they said that my brain would never ever work the same again. Now, I don't know how many of you have had 1 spinal injury, let alone 2, and being told that you'd never ever stand or walk or use your brain, but that was a lot to take in. Thankfully, again, pulling on a lot of internal power, I was able to isolate and overcome and train on what those things are so I could overcome, but I couldn't even do basic things like go and get groceries from the store. I had people helping me, people walking my dog. I had a 60-kilo American Staffy. Thank you to those people that did help me at that point in time. But yeah, as I said, I was sensitive to light and sound. I was literally replying to any consulting work on my phone because I couldn't open a laptop or watch a TV because it was too much light. So I got through that. Then I went through a massive growth period with another company that I consulted to, and I used a lot of B2B expertise in that B2C Indeed environment. about a year later, my house burnt down with me in it. There's a bit of a crazy story for the background that I've got in terms of resilience, and during that time I'd also taken my first concept for a multi-directional vendor system or marketplace or quoting procurement system to venture capital. They said I was crazy, but they did like how I got to them in terms of the market, which is the process you see in one of the fundamental pillars of closed circuit selling. So that always stuck with me. So I recovered obviously from that. Losing everything wasn't that easy, obviously. And then I worked my way back to starting to really talk on LinkedIn, and that's everything that you now see 5 years from that point. But all of the stuff that you see is from multiple heads of sales roles across industries, across country, across multiple markets: Australia, New Zealand, America, Canada, Europe, London, England. That's everything that you see here today. That is tried and true, and I thank Mark, my mentor, Mark Revel, for getting me all of that insight, whether that's directly from the lessons he taught me early on in the big banking sector, or that's from watching him do some of those pillars and what business should look like end to end. And that is the revenue alignment system or architecture that you see today. So I hope that clears it up. So that's my story. So maybe Netflix will pick it up.